results are in for the 2008 Drill Sergeant of the Year competition. Welcome to Army Newswatch. I'm Specialist Ashley Torres.
And I'm Sergeant Pete Mays. Plus, the Army shows off its future combat systems. But first, here's a look at what's going on around the Army.
Hundreds of National Guard soldiers deployed to the Midwest to help flood victims. Torrential rains devastated parts of Iowa and Indiana. Troops filled and piled up thousands of sandbags along the Mississippi River to keep the floodwaters at bay. The warrior citizens also provided security, traffic patrols, and transportation of water pumps.
It's been nice to actually, aside from going to Iraq, to do what the National Guard is there to do.
It's hard work, but we're helping people.
The National Guard in southeast Colorado also battled the elements. Wildfires scorched more than 40,000 acres on Fort Carson's Pinyon Canyon Maneuver Site training area.
You're scooping water out of a river and flying approximately a mile to the drop site and trying to drop the water on the fire line.
The blaze threatened prehistoric Indian rock art as well as habitation and tool manufacturing sites.
Deployed soldiers needing medical care don't have to worry about paper records getting lost anymore. The Army's new Medical Communications for Combat Casualty Care System, or MC4, stores the records digitally. The handheld device also improves medical care by letting doctors transfer patient records to other healthcare providers. MC4 is used at all Army hospitals and aid stations in Iraq and Afghanistan. More than 24,000 systems have been deployed and 5 million records captured so far.
Soldiers injured in combat seeking treatment are assigned to warrior transition units. Medical care for wounded soldiers is provided by the Army's 35 warrior transition units around the globe and 9 community-based centers here in the U.S. The new director of the Warrior Care and Transition Office says those clinics are coping with an exploding patient population.
When you grow from, say, 6,000 this time last year to over 12,000, that does present some pretty big challenges across the Army.
We'll have more with Brigadier General Cheek later in the show.
The Mississippi National Guard added 2 lightweight helicopters to its arsenal. The UH-72A Lakota Light Utility Helicopters allow Guard soldiers to carry out Homeland Security missions, disaster relief, search and rescue operations, medical evacuations, and counter-drug missions. Recent modifications to the aircraft allow troops to mount medical gear on the helicopter's wall.
The addition of these aircraft to our inventory is going to be greatly enhance our ability not only for supporting our own military, but for supporting our great state during times of emergency and in homeland security missions.
The Army plans to field 345 Lakota helicopters by 2017, 200 of which will go to Guard units around the country.
It was a prime-time moment for Army athletes headed to the 2008 Olympics. 12 soldiers stood shoulder to shoulder as they kicked off the road to victory in Beijing with an appearance on the NBC Today show. Among the troops headed to China is Staff Sergeant Libby Callahan, who will compete in the women's sport pistol event. At 56, she is the oldest member of the U.S. Olympic team.
I am proud to represent the United States Army Reserve and Olympian for the United States.
Meanwhile, Major Mike Ante will compete in the men's rifle event, where he hopes to upgrade the silver medal he won in 2004 and his matching Corvette.
That's the plan. If I win a gold medal at the Olympics, I'll upgrade my Corvette to a gold one.
8 of the 12 Army Olympians will compete in shooting events. Soldiers will also compete in wrestling, boxing, and track and field.
Well, it's time to give a big Army hooah to the stations that bring Army Newswatch to you, and especially to NORCAM channels 2 and 24, Reading, Massachusetts.
And KCLV-TV, Channel 2, Las Vegas, Nevada. Thanks for watching.
Don't go away. The Army turns 233 years old. We'll take a look back at the big birthday man.
And from the big screen to the battlefield, we'll show you how a robot can help soldiers in combat. Stick around, we'll be right back.
Recycling a glass bottle saves enough energy to run the TV you're watching for 1 full hour. Recycle. It's the everyday way to save the world.
Welcome back. 233 years young. The Army celebrates another year of incredible service from the men and women who defend our nation's freedom. Crystal Park takes a look at the birthday festivities.
There was no shortage of birthday cake during the week-long celebration of the Army's 233rd birthday, which was June 14th. Chief of Staff of the Army, General George Casey, and Secretary of the Army, Pete Guerin, read the Army's new children's book, Happy Birthday, U.S. Army, for the tots at the Child Development Centers in Fort Belvoir and Fort Myer, respectively.
Then Grandpa.
Sergeant Major of the Army, Kenneth Preston, shared the book at Walter Reed. At the official birthday ceremony held at the Pentagon, General George Casey enlisted 15 new soldiers.
There's no better time than when the country needs you. I think to give yourself is when you're most needed.
20 current soldiers re-enlisted, including a husband and wife duo, who say having a mom and a dad in the Army gives their children a unique perspective on life.
I think it makes them well-rounded. I think it makes them flexible. I think it lets them know they're going to meet lots of different people throughout their life, and I think it increases their ability to deal with many situations as they grow up.
After the ceremony, everyone enjoyed the 250-pound, 6-feet-long birthday cake. Army chefs slaved away on the cake, which was made up of 40 individual sponge cakes and included 210 pounds of icing.
Delicious.
Crystal Park, Washington.
The future is now. The Army showed off its newest combat systems on the National Mall. The non-line-of-sight Canon, or NLO-C, and other FCS models will help soldiers conduct future combat operations. The Canon is manned by only 2 soldiers and is capable of precision targeting at a great range, half the size of the state of Delaware. The FCS crew has worked for about 6 years to make the NLO-C a reality. Chief of Staff of the Army, General George Casey, calls it a cornerstone in Army modernization.
We've been talking a lot about the future combat system, and the future's here. And it's right behind me, and it's all around me, and we'll be working to push these systems into your hands as rapidly as we can.
The NLO-C is one of 8 FCS prototypes that will be delivered to the Army by 2010.
The Army recognized its greatest inventions of 2007. Winners were selected for providing the best technology solutions for soldiers, impact on Army capabilities, inventiveness, and potential benefit outside the Army. Secretary of the Army Pete Guerin presented trophies and plaques to the top 10 teams selected by the warfighter.
The great team that we've assembled both at TARDEC and with the PM and all the people who are a part of this organization, but the real recipient of the award should be the soldier whose lives were directly impacted by use of the product.
The inventions included an IED interrogation arm that soldiers can use from inside MRAPs to detect metal and lift or pry objects, a reconnaissance vehicle system that lets troops observe and engage threats from a distance during route clearing missions, and a semi-automatic sniper system that lets the shooter change magazines faster.
Some compare it to Disney's new friendly robot, WALL-E. At a future combat systems display in Washington, visitors checked out the resemblance firsthand to see how the Army's version of WALL-E has got Disney beat.
Compared to Disney's WALL-E, the Army's iRobot is a steroid junkie on the prowl for an adrenaline rush.
Here is the SUGV. It's a small unmanned ground vehicle. It's used for urban intelligence, reconnaissance, that type of mission. It's eyes and ears for you. It allows you to go into building or out into the field, advance yourself without actually putting yourself into harm's way. You know, if you enter a building and an IED goes off, it's a lot better to have a robot blown up than it is a soldier, because you can replace a robot a lot easier.
We'll operate the neck up and down.
Soldiers deployed to combat zones have used this 30-pound gadget. They say it's like having another man in their squad.
All they need to do is get it out there to these soldiers, start training on them. The SUGV right now, if you brought them to theater, someone would find good use for them.
Anything and everything that the robot sees, you can see in a little monocle right here attached to the glasses.
I can see the sky.
Kids enjoyed the WALL-E-like bot.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
They even had ideas of how to make it better.
Put guns on the side and make it like where if somebody tries to shoot at it, it won't blow up. Yeah, and like make it a little thing over it, like a clear box that's bulletproof, so if you shoot at it, it won't hit the camera and mess it all up where you don't see anything.
For now, the robot remains unarmed, but it's still an example of the Army's advancements with the future combat systems. So advanced, even Disney wants in on the action. I'm Specialist Ashley Torres, Washington.
Connecting all the strategic initiatives underway in Afghanistan is extremely difficult because of the lack of roads. Gail McCabe has more on an Army civilian who works at driving road expansion.
Cliff Menting is working on one of the most critical pieces of Afghanistan's future.
We can build schools and clinics all we want, but if we don't have roads to get people to and from them, or physicians or licensed teachers to go up and teach at them, what good is to have a school out in nowhere without the road?
Menting is an Army civilian working with the Corps of Engineers Afghan Engineer District. As a civil engineer, this is his first transportation project outside his home state of Wisconsin. The road is just north of Kabul. The path being formed will evolve into a major roadway. When finished, it will connect remote and rural areas to the capital and its promise of governance, security, and economic growth.
With our road going in, U.S. aid is starting construction of a 100-megawatt power plant, which will supply power for this area. And then we can get their economy going by getting them to work.
Some 2,000 kilometers of roads have been laid throughout the country so far. This year, 1,000 more kilometers will take shape. Half will be constructed by the AED. Every inch is shaped by the hands of Afghans.
It is my country. We live here, as we born here, as we working to my country. We have want to make everything good.
For 41-year-old Menting, widening avenues of progress, one lane at a time, is for him a unique opportunity to literally pave the way for tomorrow. Gail McCabe, Afghanistan.
Still to come, restoring a unique ecosystem. See how the Corps of Engineers is transforming the Everglades.
Plus, learning a language fast. We'll show you the intense training for military linguists.
More of the stories that make America's Army are up next.
Hey, you want to make a difference and make new friends? Me? Try volunteering.
Are you into it?
Call 4-H or check out our website at areyouintoit.com.
Welcome back. Drill sergeants are the backbone of America's Army. They turn recruits into soldiers by testing their mental and physical capabilities. But at Fort Eustis, their roles were reversed, as 7 of the top drill sergeants spent a week fighting to receive the title of Drill Sergeant of the Year. Dave Anarino reports.
Essentially, you've got the Super Bowl of drill sergeants that's taking place here.
Got up early this morning. The thunder and lightning were really cracking out there last night.
Come on up here to my tailgate of my pickup truck and we're going to talk. And they're not going to get a lot of comfort time to sit back and relax and really just enjoy themselves. Essentially, from the time they get here until the time they go.
Yeah! I'm doing good today. Doing good, feeling good.
They are moving. There's land navigation.
We're looking for the last point of the day for me, and I'll be honored if I find this.
What's the next step in your evaluation?
There's written exams.
Line 1, pick up zone.
Communications.
You can hear me. Put that tourniquet out.
We got 40 individual tasks.
Range qualifications.
And then we've got 11 collective tasks that they have to perform.
Soldier skills, and skills that they teach the soldiers every day.
Good. It takes a lot to get here in the first place, let alone to get here and do well.
Hey, you want some bread or cheese? I carved up. Get my fruit in me. This is a chance of a lifetime. You know, you get one chance as a drill sergeant to be the Trade-Off Drill Sergeant of the Year. And I'm just, I'm so thankful and blessed and overwhelmed to be here, you know, competing with, you know, the best of the best. It's once in a lifetime, you know, so you make the most of it. Each one of these drill sergeants, I mean, they're razor sharp. And they started their journey a long time ago to get where they are right now. And it's truly just been a phenomenal competition. I'm proud of each and every one of them.
All those people back home believe that there's a drill sergeant out there somewhere that's going to train their kid or their wife or their husband or whoever that person may be, the person that they care about, that we're going to train them as hard as we possibly can so that they will be able to go over in close combat with the enemy, defeat the enemy, and come back home alive.
And to see somebody go from day one private to soldier, it's a great accomplishment. There's no more self-satisfaction than taking an individual and making them a soldier. If you really think about it, without the drill sergeants, we wouldn't have the Army that we have today.
Sergeant First Class Michael Nolan took home the prize of Reserve Drill Sergeant of the Year, as Staff Sergeant Herbert Thompson was named Active Component Drill Sergeant of the Year. Both soldiers will transfer to Fort Monroe, Virginia, where they'll help develop training doctrine for the drill sergeant school. They'll also become spokesmen for the Army.
Critics say Europeans have long been better environmental stewards than Americans. But environmental officials at Hohenfels, Germany have caught up by taking measures to ensure the safety of soldiers and civilians while managing the environment. James Williams has more.
In this quiet little town in southeast Germany, locals take environmental matters seriously. In fact, when air quality suffers, the Germans take action.
Officials here tell me that in the 1980s, the installation was fined heavily for environmental problems, including excessive dust.
Military convoys kick up a lot of dust, making it dangerous for anyone on or near the road.
So it is like fog, which is actually migrating off-post into the villages.
So environmental officials have teamed up with the Corps of Engineers to control the amount of dust lifted into the air from heavy vehicles. Once a year, they apply calcium chloride to about 30 miles of installation roads.
The roads look like they've been rained on. They're actually slightly darker than the normal roads that have not been treated. You can see a pronounced change immediately.
Soldiers say they're doing what they can to help the situation.
We try to use speed control and water, the water control as much as we can in the training areas.
Treating the roads costs the government about $400,000 a year, but Albert Boom says it's worth it.
In my eyes, it's very well spent because it also goes for the soldiers here because they have safer training conditions. Plus, it's good for their health as well because you don't have to really work in so-called ugly dust conditions throughout the mount sites.
Boom also says the dust control program proves to the Germans that the U.S. military is serious about the environment as well. James Williams, Hohenfels, Germany.
The largest environmental restoration effort in history is rehabilitating one of the nation's most unique ecosystems, the River of Grass. The complex venture is made up of more than 50 projects. Mary Cochran reports on a Corps of Engineers enterprise to help reclaim the Florida Everglades.
It was like instant love.
A love he discovered 24 years ago.
A lot of people like to call me an artist, but I like to call myself a teacher.
Teaching on the edge of the Everglades National Park, Clyde Butcher captures the essence of the Everglades with over 1,000 plant species.
We have oaks, pines, cabbage palms, cypress, ferns, orchids, bromeliads. Probably one of the most diverse places in the United States. And one of the most alive places.
We have what we used to call extravagant abundance. We used to have bird life that was so thick that when they took off, they would block out the sun. We're trying to reestablish that. We have a long ways to go.
One of the first steps is restoring the water flow to the River of Grass.
Because the park is dying of thirst.
A roadway, the Tamiami Trail, is the #1 restoration priority for the Everglades National Park.
The problem with this roadway is it's basically a dam across 10.7 miles, and it blocks the flow to the park. In fact, the flow getting across here is about 1/3 of what it should be naturally. Our #1 partner is the Corps of Engineers.
This is a monumental step for the Corps in restoring a lot of the national treasures, but also we're gaining valuable lessons in ecosystem restoration.
The restoration journey, including 68 projects, is one that can take 30 years to complete. In the meantime, Clyde Butcher will continue to capture the timeless beauty of the Everglades. Mary Cochran, Big Cypress, Florida.
It was a special outreach and education event to welcome veterans home. Sergeant Mike O'Brien has more.
Welcome home, veterans. The VA Medical Center in Washington, D.C. honored 1,200 returning combat vets with a unique outreach and education event recently. Natalia Johnson is an Operation Iraqi Freedom veteran. She's been a patient at the VA for the past 2 years.
From coming back from overseas, you deal with a lot of things and a lot of issues, and I try my best to just sit here and help every soldier that I can.
Today, she's getting a massage. Prior to her treatments, Natalia needed help walking after sustaining a spinal injury. Today, she's much stronger thanks to the services she's received through the VA. This is the booth area where veterans could get information on resources available to them. The celebration offered enrollment in eligibility services, health and mental health screenings, and benefits advice to soldiers living in the D.C. area. The center's director said he was on cloud 9 because he was helping warriors.
How do I feel today? I'm about 20 feet off the ground. It's a wonderful feeling. What a privilege it is to be able to serve those who were willing to put their lives on the line for my freedom, for my family's freedom. And we want them to see the VA as a family. And we want them to be part of that VA family. We want them to know that this VA family, this VA Medical Center exists for them.
New Army organizations called Warrior Transition Units provide medical care for injured soldiers. They've revolutionized the process for the way medical care is provided.
But some are operating at near capacity. Medical editor Dr. Paul Little has the story.
Hi, good morning.
Sergeant Irwin Brown and Sergeant Ryan Major are wounded warriors. Both transitioned through the new Warrior Clinic that opened back in February at Walter Reed. They were some of the first soldiers to experience the Army's new way of delivering medical care.
From the Army standpoint, we want to look at all.
The new director of the Warrior Care and Transition Office says it's making a big difference.
That triad of care, which consists of a squad leader, who's the leader of those soldiers, and he takes care of their maybe non-medical things and just gives them some basic leadership and oversight. But the second part is a nurse case manager who really helps orchestrate the care for that particular soldier in terms of the different dimensions of care that he might need. And then there's a primary care provider, a physician, who is going to continue to monitor the progress of that soldier.
There are currently 35 WTUs and 9 community-based healthcare organizations around the globe, and their patient load has doubled since last year. For soldiers, it's a temporary MOS of patient, and their job is to get well, to heal.
Soldiers are different here. You know, these are ill or injured soldiers that we're dealing with, and a lot of things are different from a regular unit. 65%
of wounded warriors are returning to duty within a year, and the majority want to go back to work on active duty or to their Guard and Reserve units. General Cheek says over the next few months he'll visit just about every WTU and CBHCO to see how things are going.
Obviously, one of the first things I want to look at is just want to make sure that the facilities and so on that they live in are adequate. And then I'll also meet with those warriors in transition and speak with them. Kind of want to get from them is, are you on track? What do you want to do with your future? Those types of questions, and whether they feel they're moving forward at the pace that they need to go.
Cheek says his #1 mission is to make sure world-class medical care stays that way. Dr. Paul Little, Washington.
Coming up, while some soldiers have to hit the books hard this summer, some military kids aren't too thrilled that they've had to pack up their desks for summer break.
We'll be right back.
What would you like to say to AJ and Heather?
That I love them a lot and that I'm going to miss them.
They're not going anywhere.
I know, but I am.
Where are you going?
Back to Atlanta. You can always live here.
Welcome back. For 64 weeks, professors drill military linguists until they master a particular language. But in an English-speaking world, getting students to maintain that expertise outside the classroom is a challenge. Jeannie Ryan has more.
From the minute they enter the room and take the pledge, no English allowed. These Korean students must live and breathe the language they're learning for the next couple of days. This is Private First Class Geneva Johnson's second time at the Defense Language Institute Immersion Facility, and we're about to make her break the rules.
It's pretty hard. Over time, it's become a little more natural. It's a lot easier than my first immersion.
Johnson's relationship with Korean began at the age of 16, before she joined the Army.
I did Taekwondo and had a really close relationship with my master and his wife, and they taught me Hangul.
The 64-week language course is intense, and professors say the immersion program gets these military linguists ready for real-world missions.
When the students are here, they can only speak the target language
Instead of when they were in the classroom, they speak the target language in the classroom, but when they come out of the classroom, they sometimes switch back to English.
To make their isolation from the English-speaking world complete, students spend the night in trailers, forced to speak the language they're learning. Specialist Jordan Monroe, who's interrogating a North Korean defector during an exercise, says all Korean all the time is a bit of a challenge.
It's a problem-solving challenge, and just working your way through the language, training your mind to only use Korean is very intensive.
Whether the language rolls off their tongues easily or with great difficulty now, students hope their time in immersion will make them Korean experts fast. Jeannie Ryan, Monterey, California.
Here in the U.S., many students are happy to empty their desk and return their textbooks at the end of the school year. But in Mannheim, Germany, where there's a 70% deployment rate, kids of soldiers have come to depend on school as their only constant. Michelle Michael explains why their last day at school wasn't so exciting.
What else can we do together as a group?
Instead of exchanging phone numbers for the summer, these kids
I'm looking at a picture of me and my dad.
Are trading war stories.
I miss you.
Their moms and dads won't pick them up today, their last day of school. They're away.
He's in Iraq, Basra, Kuwait.
The problem with summer break is that there will be too much time.
I don't want my dad to get hot.
And too little dad.
I miss my dad. It's not really fun without him and stuff. And it's really hard because a lot of bad things go bad there, and it just makes me cry because like something bad could really happen, and then he wouldn't come home or anything.
Like the soldiers at war, these kids have scars of their own. They don't always understand why their moms and dads are away or how it all started.
Because of the Empire State Building.
They just know one thing. The last day of school is the start of 3 long months of worry.
Kind of like their parents are out there staying together in Iraq and Afghanistan. They're here in school staying together, being there for each other.
Emily, Zach, and Michaela have one thing in common. Someone missing from their lives.
Because I know that they're feeling the same way.
Some avoid talking about it. Some can't keep it in.
I worry about him, like something bad happening.
Others,
I'm not really sure.
Unsure what it all means. Together, this generation marked by war stands united and walks off to brave summer break, even when their emotions won't take a day off. Michelle Michael, Mannheim, Germany.
That does it for this edition of Army Newswatch.
Join us again next time for the stories that make America's Army.